Welcome. Today we'll be covering our budget submission. But first, James, what is a budget submission?
Hi, Chrissy. Good question. Every year, Federal Treasury, they run a consultation with industry and the wider community on the budget. So they're seeking feedback on priorities from different stakeholders. It's a really important part of the budget process, and hopefully this all helps influence some of the budget announcements made on budget day each year. So this year, we actually get to do 2 budget submissions. There was meant to be a budget in March, but obviously with COVID-19 arriving, the budget was delayed until the 6th of October. And of course, the focus has changed slightly over the last 6 months. So a second budget submission gives us the opportunity to reflect some of our work around COVID-19 recovery. So Christy, one of the sections in our submissions is on procurement. Do you mind giving me a quick summary of some of those key recommendations?
Yes, our first suggestion here is to drive productivity through procurement, which can be done through the Commonwealth Centre of Procurement Excellence. Our key message is that to realise the full potential of government stimulus, we need to unlock greater productivity. Procurement reform, that's tackling the issues that have been problematic for a very, very long time, can deliver that. Our work demonstrates that productivity gains can be found in every phase of a project, that is pre-tendering, tendering, contracting, project delivery, and post-completion. Tied to this is our second recommendation, embedding model client behaviours in government. The model client policy seeks to address the inherent market power government has in contracting with the private sector. The behaviours ensure proper risk management and better contracting. James, pipeline flows so well from procurement, so over to you.
Thanks. In the federal budget context, pipeline is the infrastructure investments. These in turn create the work demands in our industry. So it's obviously an area that we pay particular attention to. So in our recommendations, we're trying to encourage the government to boost the economy through a higher value pipeline of projects. This in turn should be a central part of the COVID-19 response. So recommendations that we've included in the pipeline section are first of all, encouraging all new decisions to be backed up by existing assessment and prioritisation processes. This ensures that we're maximising the community and economic benefits from these investments, and also ensures that we're getting the stimulus that we want out of projects as well. Secondly, we're encouraging the government to invest more in infrastructure business cases. Not only, as I mentioned before, does this ensure we're maximising benefits, but it also helps create a next wave of projects. Over the last few months, we've seen a number of projects being brought forward for good reason, but we're starting to see a little bit of a gap emerge in the next 6 to 12 months. So investing in more business cases can ensure there's a steady pipeline of projects right into the future. Lastly, we encourage the government to re-establish what we call an improved asset recycling initiative. So we cover off what this improved initiative is in a report that we released back in March 2019. But in short, we're trying to encourage governments to unlock more funding for infrastructure investments by doing asset recycling in a way that considers the ongoing community benefits. And in my opinion, more investments in infrastructure through options such as asset recycling, that's going to be really important for our COVID-19 recovery. So Christy, over to you for some of our practice recommendations.
Yes, as you know, better regulation is my second favourite topic after contracting. And I know that too often industry is not consulted early enough to help the government find pragmatic solutions to policy problems. So the economic recovery from COVID-19 really needs to focus in on this, needs to focus on better regulation from a productivity perspective. And this has to be realised throughout the country. We suggest that the National Cabinet approach could drive consistent change in all states and territories. We are aware of legislation around the country which is a drag on productivity for our members. For example, labour hire licensing laws. They were devised to solve a particular policy problem in other sectors, but because of the broad brush regulatory drafting, it now captures some of our members. We also suggest mandated post-implementation reviews to help determine the actual impact on industry of a regulation. That helps to drive change and reform. This links to our other call, which is for a national mutual registration of engineers, rather than a jurisdiction by jurisdiction approach that we are seeing in New South Wales, Victoria and the ACT now. We note the federal government is keen to ensure occupational mobility and is driving that agenda through the National Cabinet process, but we're really concerned that the message isn't reaching the state and territory agencies that are actually developing the regulations right now. James, please tell us about people.
Thanks. We noted in our submission that we can't do anything as an industry without our people. So thinking about the workforce and workplaces in our industry, they're important considerations when thinking about some of those bigger picture budget decisions. So first of all, we call for a built environment workforce strategy. So how do we ensure we have the skills, capabilities, capacity and experience as an industry to deliver the range of projects that we're seeking to do so today, but then also into the future. So this helps ensure, taking that step back, taking a strategic look at our industry, this can help us ensure that we continue to be a key driver of economic growth to the benefit of the whole economy. Secondly, we talk about practical skilled migration reforms. It does sound a bit strange to be talking about skilled migration reforms at a time when borders are closed and whatnot, but now is the time to really get some of these principles around skilled migration right. So when we get a little bit further into the recovery stage, we're not seeing the skilled migration system operate as a bit of a productivity handbrake for the economy. So we make a couple of recommendations in this space. First is looking at how we can get industry a little bit more aware of some of the processes and requirements of the skilled migration system. So we call for an industry outreach initiative to basically be a help desk for industry. And secondly, we call for, there's a visa called the Subclass 400 visa, which is targeted at global talent. So we're talking about some practical reforms to this visa type that can make it more relevant for project-based sectors such as ours. And finally, in our people section of our submission, we call for childcare and paid parental leave reforms. The Grattan Institute, they released a report not too long ago on affordable childcare. We think these recommendations, they're all costed, they make a lot of sense, so we call for the government to adopt those. And secondly, we're calling for more flexible Commonwealth paid parental leave. There's a number of options in this space, and we encourage governments to take a bit more of a look at how they can improve the scheme so it's a bit more flexible and looking at things like sharing leave between parents and whatnot.
Great, thanks, James. So that is the summary of our budget submission. It is available on our website if you want to delve into the detail. That's consultaustralia.com.au. Remember, if you want to know more, want to join one of our roundtables, want to access our member-only briefings, information on membership is also available on our website, which is again consultaustralia.com.au. Thanks.